A lot of goals and interesting storylines so far through the first round of group stage games in the 2025 Gold Cup. We'll start things off from Saturday night with Mexico against the Dominican Republic, the opener out there in California. And a really solid performance, I think, from the Dominican Republic, especially coming off the fact that they were eliminated about a week ago from World Cup qualifying to come in here, their first ever Gold Cup appearance against the defending, now 9-time champions Mexico, and put up a result like that, I think is very impressive. Obviously, they would have loved to get a point or even more potentially from that game. I think some Mexico fans are a little disappointed that they didn't take care of business more against the Dominican Republic, but credit to the debutants for coming in, putting up such a great performance, being able to score their first ever goal in the competition with Peter Gonzalez. Again, though, Mexico handled business. I think they're still very much the heavy favorites in this group. Obviously, Costa Rica and Suriname wound up giving a great game, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But again, for the Dominican Republic, this was such a huge opportunity, especially coming off the fact that they were eliminated last week. They had a great crowd on hand there for that final game, and to come in here, not let that spoil the fun or the excitement, and to put together a good performance, I think speaks volumes for what they could potentially do trying to get out of this group with their last two group stage games. But for Mexico, all in all, still a solid result. Really didn't hurt themselves in any way, shape, or form, and still very much in control of this top group. Up next, we had the United States up against Trinidad and Tobago. And again, of course, with the bad taste in the mouths of the American fans and even the Federation with some of the poor performances that they've put together in friendlies and games as of late, I think this certainly helps tilt that back in their favor just a little bit with a solid result, 5-0 over Trinidad and Tobago. Now, on Trinidad's side, incredibly poor. Just really disappointed with this team. This was always a team that I feel like coming into these types of tournaments are really fun to look at as a potential underdog, somebody who could maybe go out and put together some good performances, get a few solid results, and maybe squeak their way in to the knockout stage. But they really, as of late, the last few years or the last couple times they've been in this competition, really been poor. And some of the cheap giveaways that they had in this game, conceding goals the way that they did, really should not have been this type of result in terms of 5-0. They definitely could have handled their business a lot better, especially in possession and in the back with some of the giveaways they had, and just not being able to track runners very well, or even just really help their goalkeeper out very much at all with some of the shots that he had to take on. But nevertheless, the United States feeling good. Got a really nice, solid goal differential to move forward with this into the group stage, and I think definitely helping their fans feel a little bit better considering some of these games as of late. But for Trinidad and Tobago, a huge uphill climb in terms of, can they get a few results out of these next few games and at least, if not make it to the quarterfinals, just look competitive. Sticking with Group D, and what really I think many feel like is probably kind of going to be the deciding factor on who potentially goes through with possibly the United States out of this group. It was Haiti taking on Saudi Arabia, the invited guests from Asia. Remember, Qatar played in the last couple of tournaments. Saudi Arabia was invited this time around and expected, I think, for some to make a big splash if they could come over and compete. Hervé Renard back in charge of this group. Remember, he was in charge when they went and played in the 2022 World Cup, had that huge upset win over Argentina. And as for Haiti, remember, they had a great semifinal run in 2019 in the Gold Cup, but they've backed that up with two really disappointing group stage exits in the last couple of competitions. Expected to come in knowing that this was a huge game. Really, I think in certain ways dominated Saudi Arabia. Statistically looked very solid, but just unable to put the ball in the back of the net. Hervé Renard once again is able to find a way to grind out a result with this Asian side. And Saudi Arabia take a massive 3 points moving forward as they'll take on the United States next. Meanwhile, Haiti going to look to try and pick up some momentum against Trinidad and Tobago. For me, so far, the best game of the group stage, Costa Rica and Suriname going 4-3 in a fantastic game. And again, Costa Rica usually here, especially as of late, always kind of been in the spotlight behind the United States and Mexico, and especially more recently Canada as well. But we've seen this team go to a number of different World Cups, put on some great performances against big-time teams, but as of late, they felt really inconsistent. Now, Miguel Herrera is in charge of this team now. Remember, he was the Mexican national team head coach during the 2014 World Cup. Very expressive on the sidelines, very loud, and I think he's really hoping to try and push this team back into a spotlight at a more consistent pace. Now, again, Costa Rica came out, had a nice start, up 2-0, but then they started to crumble and fall behind. Calvo, one of their seasoned defenders, makes a terrible mistake, gives Suriname a chance to help equalize. It's 2-2. Suriname take the lead with the penalty and make it 3-2 coming all the way back, but then Costa Rica down the stretch are able to equalize, then they get a penalty themselves at stoppage time to go on and win 4-3. Shout out to Keylor Navas still being in the net for Costa Rica. I know this was not a night that he probably enjoyed very much, but nevertheless Costa Rica gets the 3 points. And again, shout out to Suriname for really putting up a great performance when they could have folded after it was 2-0, being able to come back, put goals in the back of the net, and have a shot at really taking away a big win there potentially. But nevertheless, I think this group is fairly wide open behind Mexico. Now, again, Costa Rica are on top of Mexico right now since they have more goals scored than Mexico at the moment, but I still think if the Dominican Republic can continue to play the way they are, putting on some good performances, and then Suriname will see what they do, I think it's going to be really tough for Costa Rica to try and fend off the Dominican Republic, as well as these teams try and fight for what many expect to get that second spot behind Mexico in the group. On to Panama and Guadeloupe, and this looked horrific from the start. Panama come out up 4-0 by the 21st minute, and it looked like it was all said and done. Really nothing else to really even pay attention to. Honestly, you could probably shut the TV off. However, Guadeloupe, credit to them, continued to fight. They were able to put a goal in to make it 4-1 and had some really dangerous chances if you go back and look at the highlights from this game if you missed it, where they could have very well put back a few more goals and made this a very interesting game had they not conceded and played so poorly to start that first 20 to 25 minutes. But nevertheless, they make it 4-2 eventually. Panama go on to grab one back there in stoppage time to finish 5-2. And I have to point out, certainly while Guadeloupe to start off was disappointing, again, a lot of credit to them for continuing to stay in the fight and at least try and create opportunities, which they did. I think had they been a little bit more composed in the final third, we could have seen them score some more goals. However, for me, it's more disappointing on the side of Panama. Remember, we saw this team go to the final in 2023. We've seen them do some great things in the CONCACAF Nations League as of late as well. I think it's time for this team to kind of continue to take that next step up if they want to be more in consideration when we're always talking about the big three with Mexico, the United States, and Canada. And a tournament like this is huge for them to potentially do that and be one of the other first-time winners to join that group. So a lot more expectation, I think, out of Panama, especially when they have a lead like that so early, to be able to maintain it and not give the ball away as cheaply as they did. Because between their own half and in the midfield, they gave the ball away a couple of times that were just horrendous that, again, unfortunately, Guadeloupe couldn't take advantage of, but other teams are going to down the stretch if they continue to make those mistakes. So expecting more from Panama as we go forward, a team that, again, has a lot of great potential down the stretch. The last game to discuss, Jamaica against Guatemala, and a huge result for Guatemala. I believe their first result against Jamaica in over a decade. I think maybe even 13 years was it, if I looked at that correctly. But still, for Guatemala, they were kind of the darlings, I felt like, in 2023. They put on some great performances. Their fans travel incredibly well. They've had some great environments to play in the last few years of this competition. And again, I think they're really poised to potentially hope to maybe make a run in this knockout stage if they're able to get to the quarterfinals. But again, for them, a very impressive result. Had a lot of good, dangerous attacking looks. I think they just need to be a little bit sharper once they get in the final third, creating those chances, especially against a team like Jamaica, who have a lot of size, and it can very easily be able to get in the way of certain shots or threatening passes and different things as such. But for Jamaica, have to point out that Mikel Antonio back on the field for the first time since his horrific wreck in December of 2024 that almost took his life. And so the fact to be able to see him back on the field was just fantastic all the way around, regardless of the result for them. But in terms of this Jamaican national team, I think a team that, again, we look at them with so much potential, a lot of great attacking power, but they just still haven't come to fruition in terms of the potential and what they offer with all the attacking possibilities that they have. You know, this team can put it on sometimes, and they play in some great performances, but they just aren't able to do it consistently enough to the point where, especially in big moments, they're able to capitalize on it. Again, we have seen this team make it in some deep runs over the last decade in the Gold Cup. However, I feel like that this team maybe is better equipped to make a deeper run than some of the teams that they've had in the past, and yet they have not been able to show the same type of consistency. So certainly hoping for more from Jamaica going forward, but as for Guatemala, a huge 3 points. If you guys are unfamiliar with the schedule going forward, remember tonight starts Group B for match day 1. We've got Curacao taking on El Salvador, and then Canada against Honduras in the late game. So that will end match day 1 after tonight, and then match day 2 kicks off tomorrow evening. Well, guys, that's all for us today, but make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe button. Thank you so much for watching, and let us know down in the comments as well your thoughts over these games from match day 1, as well as some potential upsets that you think we could see during the group stage. But until next time, guys, we'll see you soon. Take care.